We all get complacent, we get comfortable. And it may be a good comfort, maybe most things are pretty good. But open ourselves up to it. We may explore it, we may decide not to. But if we don't open ourselves up to possibilities, including in our relationships with brothers, sisters, parents, spouses, if we don't see a possible difference, we just keep repeating the pattern over and over again. Remembering that it's the simple plan that's the best one. That's Peter Bregman's whole notion. Bregman says you take something complex and you break it down into simple components. I think about those massive science projects that they're performing. They're always broken down into the individual part, the sequence that you can follow that makes it more realistic and ultimately able to be followed. Bill talked about the story. The story isn't external. It's your story. What is it that drives you? What motivates you? What keeps you happy? Those are important to repeat to yourself because guess what? Most of the stories we hear that include about ourselves are sadly negative. You've seen the studies about children. Out of 8 times they hear from parents, teachers, others, 7 of those 8 are usually something negative. And believe me, I look at myself. I'm about 8 out of 8 with my kids. It's really important if we're constantly hearing that. I remember the great Bud Grant, legendary coach of the Minnesota Vikings, was asked, Bud, you rarely ever yell at your players. Why is that? Again, successful coach, took them to four Super Bowls. And he said they've been yelled at all their lives. He says, I want to promote the positive. And again, granted, there are times when it might be appropriate to bring up the negative, but the point is reinforcing the positive. It doesn't happen enough in our critical society. You yourself, though, can be the positive force. And then envisioning the outcome. Where is this going to take me? I'm not doing this goal just because this is a good thing to do. If it's a project, when I'm done, what does it do? Maybe it benefited others. Maybe you did something that's going to bring more money into the college. Maybe you helped professors with their grades. Maybe the PCA ran a project that affected our students. Some good outcome. We have to recognize that that's the critical component to all of this, why we're doing it.
So some of the motivation reminders. Typically, you only need a few moments to get motivated. And as I look in the lens of my business class, it's that eureka moment where it hits you in the head, I have a great idea. Well, the converse, the idea is, hey, I'm going to take to action. I'm going to do something. And that's what we're hoping for, that initial spark. One of the motivational fire starts, progress follows immediately. And that's really typically the harder piece. You start joining the gym on January 2nd. And then you look at the gym on February 2nd, a lot less populated. If I own the gym, that's terrific. It's terrific. No one's there anymore. They still have to pay. You feel obligated. I got to pay my membership. I'm really going to go. I'm really going to go. But we need to keep pushing ourselves. And the model for change is much less important than the implementation. And I'll talk about it in a couple slides further. It is a process. It is a journey. I am not going to join the gym and then all of a sudden lose 15 pounds. It's a long, long process. But when you have an idea of seeing what John just mentioned, envision your future, envision that and see that, it is definitely possible.
You've probably all seen or heard about this notion of the daffodil principle. I really like it. It's become popular via emails that are sent around. But the notion is someone's driving down a country road and they see these beautiful daffodils lined up on the side of the road for about a mile. And they're stunned at how precisely they're spaced, but also that someone took the time to do that. They were just overwhelmed. It must have been an army of people. And towards the end of the drive, they see a woman there on the side of the road, and there she is planting a daffodil. And they rolled down the window and said, this is just gorgeous. What inspired you? She said, I love daffodils, and I ride this road all the time. I live right around here. And they said, well, that's incredible. When did you start this? She said, I started 10 years ago, and I do one daffodil at a time. So the idea, she got there, but the process itself, even when she was putting that one daffodil in, was something she loved. And I think of the folks on campus who do the beautification. They're putting things in there that will grow later on, and then they see the joy that it brings to everyone else. But as Bill noted, that very process itself, but also that it's not something that's accomplished overnight. It's piecemeal, it's down the road to the point at the end, then you see it all blossom, and you see it take shape and take hold, and you're like, wow, how did I get here? Well, I got here through this practical, step-by-step process.
And so another quote by Stephen Richards, success will be within your reach only when you can start reaching out for it. And once again, really talking about that first step. But when I think about my baseball team, we started off our season, believe it or not, we play in this cold weather. We started last weekend, we played doubleheader this weekend. And I would tell you, probably one of the most talented teams I've ever had, all right? And our record right now is 1-2, 1-2. And that self-doubt can gradually creep in. We're going, well, maybe we're not as good as coach says we are. Maybe we don't know what we're really doing. Or maybe coach doesn't know what the heck he's doing. So it definitely creeps in. But just like the daffodil principle, trying to explain or articulate that it is a journey, it is a process, and at the end of that 10 years, I perceive, or I believe, in the next 2 months, we're probably going to have the most magical season that we've ever had, with the talent and the ability. But to be able to believe that and see the end, the goal of us winning, let's say, a conference championship, where it was not possible years ago to even remotely think that way, it is about gradually planting those seeds. So either a daffodil or just those positive moments of your gradual improvement each and every practice, each and every game.
We want to give a couple of case studies, and there are many, and I can look around this room and think of some, but these really stood out to me as I was talking to Bill in preparation for this, and he's incorrect when he said we put it together this morning. We started late last night. But actually, no, we started a long time ago because it's become more and more important to us in our lives, but most importantly, because I see the impact it has with others, and it really is uplifting, and I just say we have to do more of this. But I'm going to give you 3 quick snapshots here, and sometimes the names were changed because of the individuals. You might know them. First one, you might know only if you listen to the radio at night, but Freddie Coleman came onto Mansfield University's campus back in the late 1980s, and we allowed walk-ons on the football field to come on 1 week after the regular practice started. So the regular guys would come in, and I was coaching the secondary, Division II football, and they'd be polished, sharp, have their helmets buffed, and be big guys come out there and do their drills. And out comes this kind of ragtag unit of about 10 kids that were invited to come on to the team and serve on the practice squad and be what they call a walk-on. Freddie Coleman, I'll never forget his first day, because Freddie Coleman had pants that were extremely too long. He had on black socks. Everybody else traditionally wore white socks when he came to practice. He had clothing, the headgear and so forth that didn't fit, but he had a smile from ear to ear. And I watched him run a few routes, even though I was on the defense watching him, and I turned to one of the coaches, and I said, Jim, I said, nice kid, but goodness gracious, if he ever sees the field, we are in deep trouble. We are in deep trouble indeed. And he said, John, I agree with you, but it's a good kid to have around. I talked to Freddie a few weeks later, and I said, Fred, it's so great to see you. We never got to meet you because, again, I was on the other side of the ball coaching. I said, Fred, what motivates you? What keeps you going in this? He said, Coach, whether I play or not really isn't as important. I want to be involved in sports. I love it. I love what it did to me, my brothers, my family, my sisters are involved. And it's just great to be part of the program. I'm really happy to be out here. And he said, someday my career is going to lead me into sports. And that was enough for me. I said, Fred, we're so lucky we have you out here. And day in and day out, he'd be with the practice squad, never complained a day in his life, never said anything. Freshman year went on, sophomore year, junior year, never saw a day on the field. Never was on special teams, nothing. Senior year, I was no longer at the school, and I kept in touch with the coaches. Fred Coleman set a number of records as a receiver in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. He became very adept at catching the football. He always had a little speed. But that's not the important part of the story. Fred continued on. His love of sports was always there. Fred Coleman is now on ESPN Radio, coast to coast. He is on there at night. You can catch him. You can Google him. His love, his energy, you hear it when he talks now, just like when he was an 18-year-old guy coming onto that field. He had that vision. And it wasn't to be famous. It wasn't to be even successful. It was to do something he loved. He, my friends, when he passes, and God willing, that's years and years from now, he will not have those regrets we talked about earlier. Samantha Jones, I always think of Rich when you're seeing the students who come through to appeal their suspensions for academics when they go below the threshold and the college gives them chances. Well, Samantha came to me as a biochemistry major, freshman year, second semester. had a 0.8 average. And I thought to myself, you know what, college isn't right. I was a residence coordinator at the time, again, back in Mansfield as a grad student. I thought college isn't right for Samantha. But Samantha had that gleam in her eyes. And I said, Samantha, are you going to go before the appeals board? And she said, yes, Mr. Della, and would you be a reference? And I said, I will, but I have to ask you, you've really struggled in all these science courses. And I might add, I was more of a social science guy. This part is tough stuff, you know, I understand. Do you think maybe you want to shift to a major that's a little more realistic? And she looked at me, she says, but you don't understand. I love science. I want to work in a lab. That's what I dream about doing. And I thought, well, good, you know what? I'm going to sign a letter for you and give it one more shot. Let's see how it goes about. And she said, don't worry, I will succeed. I'm going to reach that point, and you'll be proud of me. And I said, well, it's not about me, but go ahead. Well, ultimately, she was let back in by the board, and she completed her degrees, undergraduate, went on, got her master's, her PhD. Now this name I did change, but Samantha Jones, the student I'm referring to, ultimately created a compound. And this compound, this biochemical compound that I can't fully even grasp, is like some type of catalyst that helps this drug to fight cancer enter the body more readily and ultimately become more effective. And this individual actually had it patented in her name so that it's named after this individual. And I haven't seen the person probably, I saw him maybe 10 years after, and I'll never forget it down at, I think, Temple University in the lab coat, and you know, just with this, again, that beaming smile, the spark in the eye. But they never